The New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers prepare to do battle tomorrow for Game 6. Can the New York Knicks push a Game 7? We'll talk a little bit about that. And does either team have a real chance to defeat the OKC Thunder in the finals? We're going to talk about it all and more on today's Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night, tipping off now.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On NBA Game Night. My name is Haize. I'm the host of Locked On Bulls. I'm joined by Swipa, one of the hosts of Locked On Nuggets. Swiper, man, it's been a long week. Playoffs has been great. It's been a lot of fun around the NBA. As always, man, it's been an interesting playoffs. But we got Game 6. The New York Knicks were able to push it Game 6 in Game 5. The question that I have for you here is, like, what do the New York Knicks have to do to push it to Game 7, to make it go another game?
Yeah, that's a good question. Starting off easy, I think that the first one, obviously, is Jalen Brunson has to continue to torrid play that he's displayed, honestly, for most of the playoffs. But in particular, this last game, the level of aggression that he had as an overall player, as a scorer, especially the creation stuff from him, especially with how they're throwing coverages at Brunson, it's very difficult for him to find consistent looks versus this Indiana team. Now, I say that at the same time of every number one option that Indiana has played so far in the playoffs, they've all gotten off, I would say, fairly well versus that team. And in large part, just like the NBA is so talented at the top, it's really difficult to start a number one option, especially, Giannis, Donovan Mitchell, now Jalen Brunson on a consistent basis. But Jalen Brunson, this whole playoff, y'all, 17 games, 30 points a game, 7 assists a game, 3 rebounds. I mean, that is like true superstar kind of numbers. I mean, that's something that you would expect to see from all-time great players like your Kobe Bryants, other guards that are just like all-time, even LeBron, 30 and 7 assists. I mean, that's a big deal to have that kind of creation and to do it in the way that he's asked to do it, and to do it on 46% from the field, shooting 36% from three. He's getting to the line 8 times per game as well. That is to Jalen Brunson that you're going to have to see, I think, in Game 6 to carry this over. But in the series, he's averaging 33.5, and he's, again, had some really, really good games, 43 points, 36 points, 31 points, and 32 points in this series. Again, that is the kind of dynamic greatness that you expect from JB. So that's the start. How do they continue to get him going? How do they continue to allow for him to find ways to just create space for himself? And in particular, to make sure that if you need to create baskets for him, you need to create opportunities for him, that you're putting spacers around him. I know the Josh Hart minutes, they haven't been great when it has to starters. And some of this is, you're trying to put Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson around other defenders, and you want to have, again, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart. You want to have Miles McBride. You want to have OG Anunoby around them, because you're just trying to find ways to stabilize what it is they're doing. But y'all, so far this playoffs, the starting lineup, they haven't been able to find real rhythm. They played 331 minutes with Brunson, Bridges, Hart, Anunoby, and Towns so far this playoff. They have a minus 6.8 net rating. The defense hasn't been all that great. They're at a 114.8, but the offense has been even worse, and that's a 108.0. And I think a lot of Knicks fans, the reason why they feel like Thibs has just been waited a little bit too long to make adjustments is because they just don't think that lineup, in the starting lineup in particular, needs to get a lot of minutes, because they're just not doing a good enough job generating stops. And then on the other end, they're not doing enough jobs creating points. But if you look, Haize, at the lineup, I think they need to play the most getting ready for Game 6. It's going to be the lineup with Jalen Brunson, with OG Anunoby, with Karl Anthony Towns, and Mitchell Robinson. I mean, that lineup has been dynamic. That lineup is a plus 16.3 in 37 minutes in 3 games so far in this series. They got a 102.7 defensive rating. Haize, when you put Karl Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson on the floor, they just bring a level of aggression, rebounding, and I think defense, because of having Mitchell on the floor with OG and with Mikal, that just allows for Brunson and then to be able to operate. And then giving Brunson yet another vertical spacer as a rim runner also helps them a lot. it takes away some of the risk of having two players that are not good defenders on the floor versus this Pacers team by giving them defenders, but also you give them some outlets in terms of creating more offense and all that. So I do expect that lineup to happen. I think Tibbs needs to continue going through his lineup. Landry Shamet, Hayes, played really big minutes just last night and got a crucial steal in this game. And that's the kind of momentum stuff that you need to continue to find, I think, from Miles, from Landry, and maybe from another option off the bench should they decide to go to it. But they have an opportunity. Brunson needs to be special. Karl Anthony Towns needs to continue to be special, y'all. He's averaging 25 and 12 in this series, which is just great. And again, he's shooting 42% from three, 52 from the field, and 81 from the line. That's special stuff from Karl Anthony Towns. They both have to bring it to the table, Hayes, to make sure they can extend this to a game 7.
Yeah, they're gonna need to play almost mistake-free basketball. Now, that doesn't mean perfect basketball; it just means mistake-free. They're gonna have to cut down on the turnovers, which was a thing for them at times in this series as well. And they're just gonna have to lock in. The Pacers are such a well-coached team that they execute their game plan to a T. And now, Tibbs has made some adjustments. Now they have to prepare for how Rick Carlisle is going to adjust to those adjustments. And that's the thing I think in this game 6 is going to be really important. Tibbs is going to have to adjust on the fly. And that's not always where Tibbs has been the most successful at, especially with the unit that doesn't necessarily have the kind of the defensive ability that we're used to seeing from Tibbs' team. So that's going to be an important thing. But like Brunson, I said this going into game 5, and Jalen Brunson is going to have to play some of his best defense. And while that doesn't mean I expect him to be like this amazing on-ball defender, I mean just the simple things, closing out on shooters, right? Making it hard for them. He has to. They're already hiding him as much as they can. He's going to have to fight over screens. He's going to have to close out on three-point shots, get his hand up as much as possible. Just those little things, if Jalen Brunson commits to those, makes a big difference because the Pacers aren't expecting much from Jalen Brunson defensively. But you're 100% right. Cat and Brunson, they have to be so big offensively for this team, and they're going to have somebody else step up, whether it's OG or, whoever, any given game. Bridges hitting big shots at times like we know he's capable of doing. Like, they're going to have to play such a good game, and I just hope they're not coming into this one a little tense, because if they are, the Pacers are going to blow them out the water.
Yeah, and again, Pacers fans that are listening to this, like, well, why are you talking about the Knicks so much? Again, I think the ball's is in their court.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is you're in a situation now where the Pacers, I think, have so many advantages just because they're going to so many different lineups. And they have so many different ways to beat you, and that's what makes them so dangerous so far in this series. And you just kind of look at the way Hallie has played for most of the series. Hallie had 8, 6, and 2 the other night. He was being put in clamps. They were fronting him, doing a really great job of fronting him to try to get him off the ball as much as possible. And again, I think the Knicks, they found something there. Now we'll see how Rick Carlisle, and again, I want to credit both Rick Carlisle and Thibodeau. Like, Tibbs has his own thing that he doesn't do super well, but I will say that he's been playing chess with Rick Carlisle to try to find advantages as often as he can. And we actually talked about this a little bit last week as well. But yeah, man, they're going to have to be able to just find ways to get Hallie open, to find ways to get the shooting going around him. Nesmith needs to have a game. Pascal needs to continue to play well. He's had a really good series so far. You're going to see Benny, TJ McConnell, Miles Turner, all of them. And they're going to be back in Indiana. And that's the other part about it that's tough too, man. Like, now going back to game 6, back in this situation, back in Indiana, and that home crowd, they're torrid. They believe in their guys. They have been helping them to gather momentum, no matter the score, whether they're up or whether they're down, all playoffs. I can say the Indiana Pacers have had one of the best home court advantages so far, and that crowd is going to be going crazy. So a lot of this is going to be on the Knicks. Can you take them out of the game early as possible? Now, some of this is going to be Brunson. Please cover your ears, Pacers fans. Getting to the free throw line. Like, the more you can slow down what Indiana is trying to do, running in transition, the better it is going to be for you. So you get to the free throw line, Karl Anthony Towns, you get to the free throw line, you create contact at the rim, slow the game down. And slow the game down, get the crowd out of the game, and then that way you can start to go on your run. And then the more and more you score, the better things get. And then now you can kind of play a slower half-court style basketball, which you do have advantages to play in. So it's going to be fun. I honestly cannot wait to see what happens in Game 6.
Game 6 is going to be fun, man. It's going to be real fun. At least I hope. I don't want to see a blowout in a potential elimination game. Let's hope that these teams come out, they're evenly matched. Coaching is going to be a really big part of that as well, and we'll see what they can do. Next up, though, we're going to be talking about or do either of these teams have a legitimate chance against the OKC Thunder when they make it to the finals. We'll talk about all that, but first we got to get into a message from DoorDash. NBA fans, what time is it? Playoff season means big performances and even bigger rewards. DoorDash is bringing the heat with a slam dunk deal for Dash Pass members during the 2025 NBA playoffs. It's called They Swoosh, You Score. Anytime a player drops 50 or more points in a playoff game, Dash Pass members score a free 3-piece crispy tender combo from Wingstop the very next day. Just place an order of $20 or more, use the code WINGSTOP50 at checkout, and that combo is yours. Crispy, delicious, and totally free. Offer valid noon to midnight the day after the game. Terms do apply. You ever looked at delivery fees and thought there's got to be a better way? With Dash Pass, you get zero delivery fees and exclusive perks like this one. How much would you save over the course of the season? So here's the play. Sign up for Dash Pass to unlock this and more exclusive deals all season long. When any player scores 50 plus in a playoff game, Dash Pass members can grab a free 3-piece crispy tender combo from Wingstop the next day. And with a $20 plus order and code Wingstop, that's Dash Pass. Your door to more savings, more flavor, and more ways to win. Terms do apply. More game night coming up next. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. We talked about game 6 and our hopes there, but either team has an uphill battle to face when they take on the Thunder in the next round. A very simple question here, Swiper. I ask you, man, does either team really have a chance against the OKC Thunder?
Yeah, I think the Pacers have a better chance because they're not going to be as dependent. And I think the biggest issue is with Jalen Brunson and the Knicks. They're so dependent on him dribbling the ball and creating and ISOs. And I'm just like, look, man, like OKC is going to be like, all right, they're going to do the same thing they did to Anthony Edwards, and it's going to be even worse. And they're just going to load up and say, all right, beat Caruso off the dribble. Okay, you don't want that. Beat Kaysen off the dribble. Okay, you don't want that. Beat Dub off the dribble. Okay, you don't want that. Beat Dort off the dribble. Okay, you don't want that. You can try to hunt SGA, but we're just going to show and then get FJ back off the ball. And then now we're going to try to go for a switch. Okay, now beat Chet. And then behind Chet, there's J-Dub. And then behind J-Dub and Chet, there's iHeart. There's levels. There's levels to this. And I think that would be a very difficult ask for Jalen Brunson to do that. We saw Anthony Edwards struggle immensely versus that team, like immensely. And Anthony Edwards is one of the best guards in the league at creating off the dribble and getting downhill because of his foot speed. And he did at times, but for the most part, wasn't great. I mean, he averaged 23 points a game in that series, shot 47% from the field and 28% from the three-point line because they just forced him to so many difficult looks. And that was probably Anthony Edwards' worst playoff series so far, and I think that matters. And so I would think the Pacers would have a better opportunity because they're not as dependent on one-on-one, ISO, get to the bucket, get to the spot basketball. And I think Tyrese Haliburton, we've seen him. He will wax and wane. Like, we know that he'll wax and wane. He can have some of these bad games. But because they're so ball movement oriented, and that is going to make a big difference, I think, in just what allows for them to be able to operate. I don't know if a lot of people don't know this, but in the playoffs so far, Tyrese Haliburton leads the NBA in the playoffs in passing. He's throwing 75 passes per game. Jokic was throwing 74. And then really, you got to get all the way down to 55 for Jalen Brunson. And this is not a knock on Jalen. It's just a play style. If you're throwing that many passes and you're trying to create that many advantage points for your team, that destabilizes the defense more often because not only you're using your gravity as a pull-up shooter and as a driver off pick and rolls, but now you're spraying the ball around the floor and you're trying to find ways to find gaps and seams either in a zone defense or in a typical man defense, and you're helping off of certain players. And on top of this, the Pacers have proven that they're probably the best. They're the best offensive team in the playoffs, and especially remaining. And when you're able to shoot to the level that they are, y'all, the Pacers have a 57.1 true shooting in the playoffs. 57.1. They have the most effective offense in the playoffs by a pretty large amount. And they have a 61 true shooting as well. They're creating not just looks, they're creating good looks, they're creating layups, they're creating dunks, they're creating open three-pointers. And that is the kind of thing you're going to need in order to beat this great team in OKC. So it's going to be fascinating to see how the matches play out. But OKC, they are such a juggernaut. They have a 104.7 defensive rating so far this playoff, which is just by far the best in the playoffs. They're holding people to record lows. They're creating a record amount of fast break points because they're creating more turnovers. They have the largest turnover advantage going into the NBA Finals ever. Like they're wrecking ball. So I think the Pacers, Haize, would be the best matchup, but maybe Jalen Brunson and Carlton Towns can make something special happen as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big maybe there with the Knicks. Like, don't get me wrong, the Knicks have crazy upside when they're on and rocking and rolling. I just think that the Pacers are the team that's better equipped. And notice I'm just saying better between those two. I don't think either team has the greatest chance to get past the OKC Thunder because I think they just can throw those waves and waves and waves of defenders at you at so many different levels that it's difficult. And they're going to try to take away what the Pacers do best. But one thing about the Pacers that I will give them to, and not to say that Coach D is a bad coach because he's not. He's a great coach too. But like Rick Carlisle has been maybe the best coach throughout this play, the most consistent coach in his game plans, the preparation for teams, the adjustments throughout this entire playoff series. And that is something that does matter as you go on. Yeah, the talent on the court is the end all be all, but like coaching and how well you prepare for that in game plan wise, I think that is going to be something to really watch the first couple of games. And if I would say this, if the Pacers can win one of the first two games, at that point, I think the series is going to go 7 games. Like that's how highly I think of the job that Rick Carlisle has done. But there's still a slim chance that happens. Like the OKC Thunder have just been so good in so many different areas on both sides of the ball. It's like it's so they're bullies. Like that's what it is. They just beat you up for the entirety of the game. They know what you're going to try to do. They stop you from doing it. Shooting has been decent from them all season long, and that's one of the ways that you need to beat the Thunders. You have to hope that they're going to have a bad shooting streak or something like that. Now, that's the thing, and we've seen it in seasons prior. Now, this is a little bit different of a makeup with a team. They have the two bigs, but when OKC goes cold shooting wise, that's when they're the most vulnerable. Mm-hmm. Do you think the shooting luck runs out for them at some point in this playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible, but the problem is you can't turn the ball over. And thankfully, Tyrese Haliburton is better at that than anybody else in the sport. So if he has the ball, he's making good reads. They're making good decisions with the basketball. Pascal, the problem is Pascal post up versus OG versus Josh Hart. Pascal post up versus Evan Mobley, one-on-one versus Evan Mobley. Pascal one-on-one versus the Bucks. That's entirely different than Pascal one-on-one post ups or even at the nail versus Chet Holmgren. So this is just going to be a lot of gamesmanship. Can they make good decisions consistently with the basketball versus the OKC Thunder? That is going to be the question. How do they continue to find ways to create advantages to get them off balance? Because Caruso and Dort and Dub, if we've seen anything so far this playoffs, they are going to be aggressive, and I would say overly aggressive. They are not, and this is not a criticism, this is a credit to them. They have established that they're going to be the most physical point of attack team in the sport. They play with a different level of aggression because they're allowed to, because of how they play. They're called for more fouls than anybody else, but sometimes you can't call fouls every possession. Like that's just what it is. You're not going to call fouls every possession. So they are leaning into being extremely handsy and being extremely physical, and that is going to play into their hands. But the thing is, can they make them pay for that? And will they be too shy for the moment? Again, the Thunder haven't been there. The Pacers haven't been there. They got to get past the Knicks. But if they are able to do it, it could end up being a fun series. Right now, I just don't think they have too much of a chance. But I would love to be proven wrong about the Pacers team that I've really been high on all season.
Yeah, we shall see, man. I'm more excited about this. If you would have told me coming into the year that we were likely to get the Pacers OKC Thunder, I don't know if I would have been excited about this, but like the Pacers have been so good throughout this run and also in the second half of the season. And they're a big example of why you can't give up. Like they weren't looking like this team was going to go on a finals run midway through the season. They were looking like they were going to have a bad season, and so they turned it around. And now look at where they are. They're one game away from getting to the NBA Finals. So it's a long season. It's 2 seasons. That's why they say that. But let's go ahead and we're going to transition into the last topic for today, where we're going to talk about the Wolves and their season wrap up right after this. All right, so the Minnesota Timberwolves season came to an end after 5 games against the OKC Thunder. There's already been talk that they could revisit some trade deadline talks as far as acquiring Kevin Durant, and that I don't know if this run has reinvigorated them to maybe go all in. Are they going to be a little bit more cautious? I don't know, but how do you ultimately feel about the Wolves season overall?
Yeah, I mean, given that they had so many injuries, well, big injuries, to start the year, and Randle obviously not being 100%, then reintegrating Randle, and then not having Karl Anthony Towns for the first time, Anthony Edwards figured out a new play style. I will say that I am I would be very encouraged if I was a Wolves fan, just because being able to find ways to be better and to get better over the course of year, like that's a big deal. And I think for them, they're going to have to continue to find ways to get better point guard play. Now, this is the Rob Dillingham story. Rob Dillingham, this is his first year, and he's never been here before. He's currently 20 years old. He's not going to be 21 until next January. So he's extremely young. And asking a player that young to be ready to kind of be the leader and lead playmaker of a team that's this good, that has title aspirations, that's going to be tough. But they have some decisions to be made. Anthony Edwards, I think, has proven that he's a fringe MVP player. He got my vote for first team All NBA this year. Anthony Edwards was also, I think, the best volume 3-point shooter in the league this season. At one point, he was shooting 10 threes a game, shooting 40%. Now that jump shot failed him in the second round for many different reasons. A lot of it was just the coverages that he was seeing. But he's going to continue to get better. I think Ant you got your guy. And I think in the league, finding your guy, finding somebody that can do the job to be the 1A option, that's always going to be the story. Next year, he's going to be making $45 million a year. Then after that, you're going to have your Rudy Gobert is going to be making $35 million a year. Rudy Gobert has 3 more years left on his deal, but he has a player option at the last year in 27, 28. Jaden McDaniels, his extension, 24 mil next year, 26 the year after that, 28, and then 30. And then you got Naz Reid, who has a player option. He is going to be up for a $15 million player option, but he's turning that down, obviously, to get a longer-term deal. They got Dante DiVincenzo, 11.9. They got 12 million after that. Mike Conley, 1 more year for 10. So, again, they have a really good team. They have a really good roster. They deserve credit for how they overcame this year. They become one of the best offenses in the league after January this year. Julius Randle really revolutionized what that team was doing. Chris Finch, I thought, had a really good coaching season. They just got beat by a much better team. That was a really bad matchup for them. Similar to the Wolves and the Mavericks last year. I just thought that was just a bad matchup. But I'll say this. Haize, I was discussing with some people. Julius Randle has a player option for $30.9 million.
Mm-hmm.
Julius Randle is probably going to rescind that player option to sign for a longer-term deal with more money guaranteed and even maybe more money up front. Now, Wolves fans, I would love your comments on this. Julius Randle, if you look at the entirety of this season, he actually was pretty good. Like, I would say that he was their second best player for the last 30 games or so. This year, he averaged 18.7, 7 points, 4.7 assists, 34% from 3, 48.5 from the field, 81 from the line. I thought he tried very, very hard defensively this year. But Haize, if I'm Julius Randle, I'm looking at OG Anunoby, who makes $45 million a year, got a 5-year deal. I'm looking at Aaron Gordon, who got $30 million a year, 4-year deal. I'm looking at Pascal Siakam, who's making $47 million. I'm looking at players like Lauri Markkanen, who's making $49 million. Julius Randle is a 2-time All-NBA player. He obviously had a really good first 2 rounds. And then in the second round, he was the best Wolf. He was better than Anthony Edwards. So, Haize, he rescinds his contract. Julius it's everywhere within his right to ask for anything between $40 to $50 million on this next contract extension. But the Wolves got rid of Karl Anthony Towns because they didn't want to pay him $60 and they wanted to get out the second apron. And then now Nickeil Alexander-Walker's a free agent. Naz Reid's a free agent. They got to find a way to come up with money, especially for Naz. Haize, how should they handle this? What should they do for Julius? Like, what should the extension look like for Julius? Like, how do you justify two things? One, keeping him on the books, but on the other end, how do you justify not re-signing him when that's not going to give you a whole lot of room right now because you can't replace that money. You can't replace that value. You're not going to find a starting power forward that's able to do all the things that he does, especially for $30 million you got last year. So, Haize, when you think about this team and what this team needs to look like going forward, what do they do?
Man, Julius Randle played so well for the majority of this playoffs, right? Like he stepped up. He played some of the best basketball of his career. And it seems like the chemistry between him and Anthony Edwards was actually perfectly fine. Now, him and Rudy Gobert, maybe there's a little bit of stuff to work out there, but man, that's a great question.
So just for context, Haize,
yeah,
Jeremy Grant, who's not Julius Randle, is making 32, 34, and then has a player option for 36. Drew Holiday, 32, 34, player option for 37. Derek White, next year, 28, and then 30, and then 32, and then a player option for 34. So again, I've named you players that are all worse players than Julius Randle, all less accomplished than Julius Randle in terms of like the all NBAs and all that. How do you get away with not paying him at least $40+ million a year?
I think the only thing you have to do is sell him on the vision that of what you're trying to build there and why you need him to take less. That's the only thing that I could think and hope for is give him a lot of guaranteed money, as much, as you're willing to do, of course. That's the only thing I could think of, man, because you're right. Like him asking for more money is, especially with the season that he had, it's not the wrong thing to do. I think him and his agent will be well within their right to do that. Yep. But if you want to be on a team that's actually going to compete and contend for something, you may have to sacrifice. And that sucks to ask somebody who just got there. There's only their one season there to be the one to sacrifice. But that's really the only play that I can think you can make towards him. But you're going to have to sell him on exactly what you're going to do to make yourselves more of a contender next year, especially in the Western Conference, because the Thunder is still going to be there, right? The Lakers, we assume, are going to get better some way in building around Luka. So, but you're going to have to sell him on the vision. I think that's the only way that you can try to get him for less than that.
Man, that's so tough, man. And so I'm curious, very similar to you, to figure out how they're going to do that. Naz Reid for me has to be the priority. Like you cannot let him go. Now, again, it's not over Julius per se, but like if you do this and then you don't retain Naz Reid, okay, so now you're going to go back to, that's what Denver did. Denver, they didn't resign KCP. They couldn't resign Bruce. Their depth got washed away. Naz Reid, like legitimately is him, Peyton Pritchard, and I don't even know, like the best six man in the league. He's right up there. He might be the best six man, just player for player. Like that's an important deal to have, that you have a tweener forward that's able to dribble, pass, play, make, and score. So do you but again, that's up to ownership. How far into the aprons do they want to get? How comfortable above that apron line do they want to be? But I'm really, really fascinated to see how Tim Connolly and them handle this, because I just don't know. I think the season was too good, Haize, for them just to be like, all right, well, thanks for everything, Julius, but we'll see you on the other side. I think that he was just, they have to resign him, but just the predicament that they're going to be in. And then now, but the other question is too, Haize, Rudy Gobert for me is their second most important player. He might not be their second best, second most important, because Rudy Gobert anchors them for the rest of the regular season for the 82. He makes them an elite defense. Are they going to have to make a decision between Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert in order to make it work?
Unless they're willing to just run the exact same team back, they're going to have to. And I don't think that you've seen enough from this team to be willing to go deep into the second tax apron. So, Rudy Gobert may end up being the odd man out. He may be. I'm not saying that for sure, but he may be. I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker's already somebody that they're going to have to let go, who played an important role for them at times there too. So like the Wolves are going to have to I don't think there's a big chance that this same Wolves team returns next year. Now, how much better is that? It depends on how big of a swing that they want to take on it. But yeah, Julius Randle, Rudy Gobert, that may be the decision that you have to make. Or even Naz Reid, Rudy Gobert. Like it's going to be one of those guys, one of those three guys. I don't think is going to be on the roster next season. I don't know how they can be.
Yeah, that sucks, man. Cause I really like this Wolves team. So
I like them
we'll
too.
see. Yeah.
Let me ask you this: if they do make a trade, right? If they do make a big trade, who do you want to? Because I have a target that I think would actually go really, really good for this team. But I want to hear from you. Who do you think that they should target? Should they go high end Kevin Durant's like we've heard that's rumored? Should they go something more complimentary? What player do you think, or what type of player do you think they should target if they do look to make a move?
Man, that's tough, man. Like, yeah, you want to go big fish hunting. Like, if you can acquire Kevin Durant, Lauri Markkanen, another player that's kind of an off-ball scorer and an on-ball scorer, then you definitely want to do that. But I don't know how much. Like, I would have to see kind of what their assets are. So Wolves, let me see what all they have at their disposal at this point. They are currently, I don't know. I don't think they're not in the second apron right now, but they're going to have to really figure out what it is that they're going to do to make up for some of this difference. But definitely they possibly could get Kevin Durant. I'd be curious to see what that package would look like. It would be around Jaden McDaniels. So we'll have to see kind of what that's going to look like. But then on top of that, like that a sign and trade that's going to include Naz Reid. Like how much of your, or if you're gonna, and we're already talking about them losing their bench depth. So what else are you adding? So that Terrence Shannon Jr. is he gone? So you got Jaden McDaniels is out, Terrence Shannon is gone, Julius Randle. Like what's all going to be inside of that package? Because now you're just going to be Anthony Edwards and Kevin Durant and Rudy Gobert, and then who else is on the roster? I think that's the situation you don't want to be in. That's what Phoenix was in.
Yeah, I got a target. I think, especially with what came out today, that they're open to moving their entire roster. I think DeJounte Murray would be really good for this team. If you know he can stay healthy, I think DeJounte Murray, what he brings as a two-way player, the on-ball defender that he can be at times, rebounding, of course, assist man, things like that, playing off-ball of Anthony Edwards, I think that could be a nice backcourt. Now, how they get him there, that's going to be the question, because you'd have to move either Jaden McDaniels or sign and trade somebody or something like that. But, like, DeJounte Murray, I think, would be really good for this team, personally.
Yeah, I mean, I like DeJounte as a player, but now it's just figuring out like, okay, well, what are you getting rid of? But then also DeJounte with the injury stuff as well.
Yeah.
He's not the defender he used to be, and is he a good enough playmaker, passer, connected player to make it work through the Western Conference playoffs? Again, that's stuff to find out. You know, we don't know as of right now, but I do think he would be a good option for them though.
Yeah, I like DeJounte, the potential DeJounte on that team a lot. They could also go after like a Trey Jones or something more simple in free agency, but we'll see. We'll be here to cover it all summer long, man, to see what these teams do. You got anything left, Swiper, before we get out of here?
Man, just been a great playoff so far. Really excited to see who wins between the Pacers and the Knicks in Game 6.
Absolutely. We'll see if we get a Game 7, man. But I want to thank you guys for tuning in, man. Make sure you guys are following us at Locked On NBA, if you choose to do so. By subscribing to this channel, you get 2 shows. You get Locked On NBA Game Night, which posts every single night. You also get the midday show, Locked On NBA. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you're not subscribed, you can check out Swiper over at Locked On Nuggets. You can check me out over at Locked On Bulls. And we'll see you guys again next Friday. Peace, y'all.